The story begins with a grotesque creature feasting on a human corpse. Shortly afterward, the scene cuts to darkness. Now, we see a young woman named Megan in a panic, heading into the forest. She screams into the air, letting her pain dissolve into the death of the woods. To relieve herself, she begins smoking a cigarette and sits down near a tree. Megan spots a dead bird near the trunk and wonders about it. Afterward, she returns home, deodorizing her body. Upon entering the house, Megan's mother questions her about where she was. Megan replies that she went for a walk and leaves. Barbara says to Megan, "You were supposed to be home because your sick father had to go to the bathroom." Megan answers that she could have done it herself, as Nikki, a nurse, has told her how. Megan walks into Robert's room, her father, who is sick with cancer. She begins cleaning dirt from the carpet with a roll of toilet paper. She spots a pouch lying under the bed. She promptly grabs it, only to find human teeth inside, which terrifies her. However, she collects them and throws them into the dustbin. A short time later, she enters her father's room to give him some medication, but stumbles upon a picture of herself and her father and is moved by it. Robert begins coughing and needs his medication immediately. Barbara quickly arrives in the room after hearing his cry. She gives him a dose of morphine to soothe his pain. Barbara then confronts Megan for removing the pouch from under the bed. Megan explains that the pouch, full of human teeth, has a foul odor, but Barbara remains obstinate and returns the pouch under Robert's bed. Megan asks her mother when she started believing in voodoo. Barbara responds that she has always had a spiritual side, while Robert lies gravely ill with blood cancer in bed. Both mother and daughter have to look after him. Nikki, a nurse, arrives at the house and prepares a full dose of morphine to give to Robert. Barbara interrupts the process, saying he doesn't need that much. Nikki explains that it is the recommended dosage and administers it to Robert despite Barbara's objection. On her way back to the hospital, Nikki asks Megan to make sure Robert receives his full dose of morphine, as her mother sometimes skips it or doesn't give him any at all. Megan asks her mother for some money, but Barbara plainly turns down the request, explaining that medical expenses have already drained their funds. Megan notices an abrasion on Barbara's head, but shrugs it off and suggests that her mother take the night off to freshen up. Initially, Barbara is reluctant, but after repeated insistence, she agrees. Barbara gets into her car and drives off, but shortly afterward, she turns around and returns home. Barbara has been preparing an amulet from her own plucked-out hair, revealing that she has become superstitious. Back in Robert's room, Megan hears strange scratching sounds coming from behind the walls. She immediately approaches the wall and hears pounding, which causes her to flinch. Robert begins to panic, prompting Megan to give him a full dose of morphine ahead of schedule to assuage his pain. Robert extends his hands, leading the story back in time to when he was young and Megan was a little girl. After discovering a fallen bird in the lawn, Megan asks her father to fix it, but Robert tells her that when something dies, it cannot come back because it is the irreversible law of nature. All you can do is let it go. Meanwhile, a blurry entity stalks them in the background. The story then returns to the present, with Robert standing near the dressing table. He tells Megan that they are watching them. Barbara arrives home and checks on her husband. Megan tells her not to be too anxious about Robert, as she has already given him a full dose of morphine. Barbara begins arguing with her for administering the dose before the scheduled time. Megan responds that Robert was in pain, prompting her to give him the medicine. Afterward, Barbara and Megan lie next to Robert, not leaving his side. Megan hears the creepy scratching sounds again and asks her mother if she can hear them. Barbara says that it is just the rats. The next morning, Megan wakes up to find her father dead, his mouth open, having lost his battle against cancer. Megan immediately awakens her mother, who is heartbroken. Both try to close Robert's mouth, but while doing so, they burst out laughing. Eventually, they manage to close his mouth and eyes. Grieving, Megan sits on the couch in the garden, missing her father while smoking a cigarette. She returns home and discovers her mother secretly talking to someone on the phone. Megan follows her, but Barbara walks away and locks herself inside a room. After exiting the room, Barbara explains to Megan that they need to keep Robert's body cold to stop it from decomposing until tomorrow. This takes Megan aback for a moment, and she becomes suspicious. She questions Barbara about what she is actually planning to do. Barbara reveals that her yoga instructor, Deborah, has recommended a shaman who can bring Robert back to life. Upon hearing this, Megan thinks her mother is completely out of her mind and blinded by her love for Robert. Megan does not approve and tries to convince Barbara that it won't work. Barbara says, "What if the shaman manages to bring Robert back? We just can't sit around and do nothing." Disgusted, Megan storms into the garden and immediately lights another cigarette, revealing herself as a chain smoker. Shortly afterward, Robert's spirit materializes near Megan, urging her to let Barbara do whatever she wants to do. If you prevent her from doing so, Barbara will resent you and always wonder if it could have worked. Megan returns home and asks Barbara where she wants to start. They begin collecting Robert's belongings, including a photo of him as a young man with little Megan. Thereafter, they start emptying the hall to prepare it for the upcoming ritual. Megan covers all the windows, not allowing the light to enter the room. In the mirror, Megan encounters several eyes that leave her terrified. Barbara burns all the belongings of Robert prior to the ritual, as it is necessary to do it. While Megan isn't happy about it at all, among the stuff, Megan comes upon the picture of her father with herself and is reluctant to burn it down. Barbara tells Megan that she was very fond of dancing in her childhood, but at the same time, Robert made her give it up. Having realized the reality, Megan is left shocked. Barbara adds that Robert also thought that dancing was a distraction, and he took you out of the classes. Subsequently, she demands to have Robert's picture to burn it along with other stuff. With a heavy heart, Megan burns it as well. In the kitchen, Megan insists upon her mother to back out of the plan, as it is still not too late. We can call him and say, "We have changed our minds," but Barbara gets furious, asking her to get out of the room as she has made up her mind to bring her husband back at all costs. Just then, someone bangs on the door, catching their attention. Barbara answers the door only to find the recommended shaman standing outside. The bearded shaman enters the house without speaking a single word. He approaches Megan and begins sniffing her. Subsequently, he repeats the same process with Barbara. He spots a red spot on Barbara's head and discovers some teeth missing inside her mouth. Subsequently, he arrives in the hall finding it lightning with candles and crystals. Then, he walks into Robert's room, checking on him. The shaman senses the presence of a pouch under Robert's bed, prompting him to pull it out and put it in his pocket. Later, he instructs Barbara to present a bag before him. After that, Megan and Barbara begin removing Robert's dead body from the bed for the ritual and start undressing him, not even leaving underwear on his body. The reticent shaman orders them to clean Robert's body with a soaked piece of cloth to sanctify his body. Barbara takes out the amulet which she prepared from her plucked out hair, forcing Megan to question her about it. Barbara replies, "It's a witch's ladder for Robert's protection." Next, Barbara and Megan enter the ritual hall only to find the shaman making preparations for the ritual, making a protective circle with many cryptic symbols. Barbara approaches him, only to be required to put Robert's body within the circle. Barbara and Megan manage to bring Robert's body into the room and place it at the center of the protective circle. The shaman unhesitatingly removes the only piece of cloth from Robert's body, causing Megan to turn her head. Then, he unzips the bag full of money, which leaves Megan utterly shocked. Afterward, the shaman begins strengthening the circle with the ashes while Megan and Barbara are inside it. He places the pouch full of Barbara's teeth, while Barbara tells Megan that once the body is prepared, they will do the second surrender and perform the spell to take them to the other side. Then, they will summon Robert's spirit back to his body, and the third surrender will bring them home. Eventually, the shaman also enters the protective circle to perform the ritual. He takes out his knife and asks Barbara and Megan to cry. He approaches Barbara, collecting a drop of her tear, but Megan doesn't cry. So the shaman brings her back in time when she was playing with her father in the garden. Meanwhile, Barbara arrives in an appropriate dress for the dinner, causing Robert to be somewhat angry. Little Megan discovers her parents having an altercation in the room. In the next scene, Robert objects to Megan's dancing and says she should be focusing on her studies while little Megan overhears this from a distance. Then, the story comes back to the present, leaving Megan crying. Subsequently, the shaman makes Barbara and Megan eat something very disgusting which doesn't taste good at all. Next, the shaman approaches Barbara, asking her to place her hand on the floor. Barbara follows his instructions, resulting in the amputation of her finger. The shaman collects her blood in a bowl. Then, he approaches Megan to do the same process, but Megan asks him not to do this. Nonetheless, the shaman chops her finger too, leaving her feeling insufferable pain. The shaman daubs Barbara and Megan's blood on Robert's body, beginning the ritual to bring back Robert's spirit to his body. Megan can't feel her fingers while Barbara sits very calmly and tells Megan that they have done the second surrender. Afterward, the shaman sits in the middle and begins chanting incantations with Barbara and Megan to summon Robert's spirit. Shortly, all the dangling objects begin swaying. Meanwhile, a flash enters the room from above, bringing darkness in the hall. Seconds later, Megan lights a candle, restoring the light. Subsequently, they discover that Robert's body is missing, which shocks them, while Shaman is severely injured as if something had attacked him in the dark. Not long after, he is dragged into the pitch-black darkness by something already lurking there. Barbara and Megan are completely terrified and hear a growl in the darkness, as if something is ready to charge at them. Barbara says that the circle was supposed to protect us. Then, Megan pulls out the picture of her father with herself, as she had not burnt it, which caused the ritual to fail. Realizing her mistake, Megan begins burning it, while a creature sprints to them. However, Megan manages to burn it before it is too late, keeping the creature at bay. Megan spots Robert's spirit standing in the darkness. Barbara calls for Robert, but doesn't hear from him. Megan spots a disfigured creature feasting on the shaman's dead body. Shortly, the grotesque creature turns around, revealing itself as Robert, who has been possessed by an evil spirit, putting Megan and Barbara into a state of fear. Megan asks her mother to immediately leave for home, but Barbara isn't willing to leave without Robert. Megan forces that it's not Robert, but something else. Then, Barbara reveals that she doesn't know the way back home. Then, Barbara lures Robert by slitting her wrist, while Megan asks her to stop doing all this. Meanwhile, the bloodthirsty Robert comes near the circle but doesn't step into it. Barbara urges him to take one more step, but steps back into the darkness. Barbara inadvertently steps out of the circle and is quickly taken into the darkness by evil Robert, leaving Megan crying within the circle, which couldn't protect her and Barbara. Megan lights a candle to prevent the darkness from prevailing in the hall. Shortly, she notices a horde of spirits outside the circle. Megan pleads with them to help her escape the room, but no one replies to her and vanishes into the darkness. Megan thinks of doing the third surrender, which may bring her home. Unwillingly, she chops off her finger hoping to get back home, but nothing happens. So she begins cutting off her another finger, but finds the same result. While lying helplessly on the floor, Megan observes a ray of light coming from below, prompting her to dismantle the floorboards. She gets a ray of hope and begins laughing. Afterward, she crawls downstairs, getting back home. Megan goes to the garden only to find herself and Robert. Megan tries to grab his attention but feels ignored. After that, she enters the room, discovering her parents arguing with each other for no reason. Just then, she peers into the dark groove near the mirror, which brings her back to the ritual hall. Shortly, Barbara approaches the circle, waiting for Megan to step out of it. Megan says, "I know it's not really you." Bidding her farewell, she puffs out the ashes, breaking the protective circle. Just then, another flash emerges into the hall. Perhaps another spirit has arrived and taken over Megan.